Open my heart to what you know, so I can stretch, so I can grow. My feelings toss me to and fro. Open my heart to what you know. Open my eyes to what you see, to understand what I should be. My feelings get the best of me. Open my eyes to what you see. Open my ears to what you hear, so I can keep you very near. My feelings make it so unclear. Open my ears to what you hear. Open my heart to what you know, so I can stretch, so I can grow. My feelings toss me to and fro. Open my heart to what you know. Open my heart to what you know. Light of the world, you step down into darkness. Open my eyes, let me see beauty that made this heart adore you. Oh, of a life spent with you. Here I am to worship, here I am to bow down, here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful to me. King of all days, also highly exalted, glorious in heaven above. Humbly you came to the earth you created, all for our sake became poor. Here I am to worship, here I am to bow down, here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful to me. Here I am to worship, here I am to bow down, here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful to me. Beauty that made this heart adore you. Hope of a life spent with you. I hear the Savior say, thy strength indeed is small. Child of weakness, watch and pray. Find in me thine all in all. Jesus paid it all to him I owe. Sin had left a crimson stain, he washed it white as snow. Lord, now indeed I find thy power and thine alone can change the leper's spots and melt the heart of stone. Jesus paid it all. that the kingdom of God is here. We declare that the kingdom of God is here. Among you, the blind see, the deaf hear, the lame men are walking, sickness is fleeing at your voice. The dead live again, and the poor hear the good news. Jesus is King, so rejoice. We declare that the kingdom of God is here. We declare that the kingdom of God is here. Among you, the blind see, the deaf hear, the lame men are walking, sickness is fleeing at his voice. The dead live again, and the poor hear the good news. Jesus is King, so rejoice. We declare that the kingdom of God is here. We declare that the kingdom of God is here.
Well, I'm not in town, but we wanted to report on our mission trip. But before I do that, I want to kind of preface it with, it seems like whenever we get ready to go on one of these trips, I'm already starting to think about the next one. And this was no different. Everything was in place to go to Mexico, so I started thinking about next year's 2021 to Costa Rica, because I'm going to be coordinating that trip. And it takes 12 months to really solidify all of the details. And so I've got on my mind, who do I need to contact? What papers do I need to file? What dates do we want to go on? Who's the team going to be? I've got all this on my mind while we're packing for Mexico. And in the meantime, about November, I got an email from a friend of mine, Barbara Plover, who has done multitude of mission trips. And if you want someone to coordinate for you, Barbara's the one you want, because every I is dotted, every T is crossed, and you know every minute of the trip what you're going to do. She is just a stickler. Anyway, she called me and said, Brenda, I have this wonderful opportunity to host a mission in Guyana, in South America, next year. That would be this year. I just want your permission to go ahead with it. She didn't really have to get my permission, but I am president of Bosch, Ohio, and so, it was a courtesy for her to ask me that. I said, hey, Margaret, sounds great. So a little while later, several weeks later, she called me with some details, and I said, just let me know when's the date, what you're going to need from us as a chapter to help you, and she started filling me in on the details, and I started getting excited about it. I thought, boy, I've never been to South America, but that would be great, but doing this one in Mexico, can I do 2 a year? What's the budget like? But it's the wheels are turning. And before long, I'm emailing her saying, putting my name on the list. Put my name on the list for that trip. It's in October. And let me know what the cost is going to be, and I'll make the determinations. I started getting really excited about it. But I thought, no, I got to get through Mexico first. Stop thinking about this, but I couldn't stop thinking about it, and I'm making plans. Oh boy, this will be great, someplace we've never seen, and I can't wait to do it. So this is all going through my mind while we're getting ready to go to Mexico. Our flights to Mexico were Cleveland to Philadelphia, Philadelphia to Cancun. Straightforward. We had about 3 hours in Philly. The flight was at 5:45 a.m. Who books these flights? I am not really a morning person. But anyway, so we went the night before to Cleveland, got to the airport in plenty of time through TSA. Everything was going smoothly, and we get to Philly, and we have about 3 hours before our flight to Cancun. So we got some breakfast, and we're just kind of sitting, letting time go by. And then it hit me. I said, you know, God, I think I put the cart before the horse here. I am so determined that I'm going to go to Guyana. I've never really asked you. So I'm putting it in your hands. I'm not going to think about it anymore. If you want me to go, you're going to have to open the doors and you're going to have to make me see that this is what you want for me. So we had about an hour and a half before our flight took off. And we decided we better go to the gate. So we're sitting at the gate and we see the American Airlines agents kind of talking among themselves and getting some people up. And finally they came on and they said, we have a slight problem. The plane that was supposed to come and get you has been substituted, another plane has been substituted, and we have overbooked. Actually, they didn't tell us that first. They said, we have a slight problem. We've overbooked this flight by 15 people. And I'm thinking to myself, how do you overbook by 15 people? I mean, 1, 2, okay, 15 people, come on. Well, then we found out that they had substituted the plane and it was a smaller plane. And they said, if you'd be willing to take a later flight, come see an agent. And, you know, Tim goes, we ought to do that. And I said, you know, really, we've got people waiting for us in Cancun, and I don't know, you know, we've got our luggage. And he said, well, let me go ask. So we went up and talked to the agent. Pretty soon I saw him up here to me. It turns out that there was a flight within a half an hour to Miami. And if we would go to Miami, then we could take the flight from Miami to Cancun. And we'd really only be 2 hours later getting in than we were originally. And they would offer us $850 a piece to take a later flight. Now, do you want to guess how much a flight to Guyana from Cleveland is? Pretty darn close. I said, thank you, God. The door is open. So, I ask for your prayers on that. I really don't want to go headlong into this. But if this is what God wants us to do, then we will be headed to Guyana in October. Thank you, American Airlines. So that was kind of the first little snafu in our trip. And later on, as you'll see as we get into this report, this verse came to mind to me. Come now, who say, today or tomorrow we will go to such and such a town and spend a year there and trade and make a profit. Yet you don't know what tomorrow will bring. What is your life? You are but a mist that appears a little time and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wills, we will live and do this or that. So we get into Cancun and things look pretty good, but this is when Mission Impossible becomes Mission Not Possible. So, as is the general, well, our first concern was that our luggage was going to get from that original flight onto the new flight because it was a very short window of time. And we were carrying 200 pairs of brand new bifocals. So it was pretty critical that they get there. And so, you know, the whole time we're on the flight from Miami to Cancun, I'm praying, please let those glasses be on this flight, you know, because this is really important. So we get off of the airplane in Cancun, we go through immigration, everything is fine, we get to customs, and they're standing by themselves, our green and a black suitcase. Praise God, there are our glasses. We are so excited. We're like, I'm like flying high. I'm thinking, this can't get any better. This is fantastic. And beside our 2 bags were standing 2 men. And as we went up to retrieve the bags, and we had our tickets with us showing those are our bags, he said, are you Brenda Kraus? I said, yes, sir. He said, come with me. Bring your bags and come with me. Okay. And first I thought he was the transportation guy that was going to take us to the hotel, but no. And then I thought, oh, I know, this is the customs agent, and he's going to walk us through customs because A lot of times our host will have let customs know that we're coming, and they'll make it a special route for us to go. We don't have to go through all the, the baggage checking and all of that. They just say, oh, you're here on a humanitarian mission, go right through. So that's what I thought. So he said, well, bring the bags over and put them up on this table, and custom agents will come and look at them. And I'm, okay, sir, no problem. That is not what he had in mind. So the custom agent came over and he said, which of these bags has the glasses in it? Number one, how did they know we had glasses in it? I said, well, sir, this one does. He said, open it up. So I did. And he said, and all the glasses were packed in individual boxes of 50 or whatever. He said, open those. I opened. How many pairs do you have here? I said, 200 pairs. Is there anything else in this bag? Yes, sir. There are some personal items, and there's my salt pan that I use to adjust glasses, and my adjusting kit, and some teddy bears that have been donated. Take those out. Yes, sir. So we're stuffing everything in all of our other luggage, and finally, we're like, these glasses, we're here on a medical mission. We're going to give these glasses away. We're not selling these glasses. I know that. Finally, after a lot of back and forth, he said, wait here. And he went in and he typed up a letter. And then he took Tim in a back office and had Tim sign this. Of course, it was in Spanish, so we didn't really know what we were signing. We thought it was a letter saying these are glasses that are going to be given out. From there, it became a Seinfeld sitcom, essentially. He said, get these bags and follow this woman to our customs office, and then we'll release the glasses. So we said, okay. So this woman takes us out of the airport, around the corner, down a street, around another corner, through a gate to this little building, at least a quarter of a mile away from the airport. All the time we're dragging all of this luggage with us. Hands over the paper to the man in this little office who does not speak a word of English. We speak almost no Spanish. And we are trying to convey to him that we want our bags back. That's all we want is our bags back. And he looks at the paper. He said, well, my supervisor will have to look at this, and he's in a meeting. So we stood and we waited, all the time trying to explain to him that we're trying to get these glasses through. So the supervisor came, he looked at it and said, oh, these are the wrong papers. But you just gave us those papers. No, these are the wrong papers. You'll have to get the right papers. Well, what are the right papers? We don't know. So I said, oh, wait a minute. I've got papers that Darlene, the coordinator of this mission, gave me for this specific reason. It's an invitation from the Chetamall Rotary, and it's a letter saying we're bringing these glasses in. Hand that, oh no, this is not what we want. Okay. So this is a Friday evening. It is now, I don't know, 6 o'clock in the evening. And he said, you will have to get a member of the Rotary Club, because they were hosting us, from Cancun to come down here and sign the papers. And I said, well, number one, we're not working with the Cancun Rotary, we're working with Chetamall's Rotary, and that is impossible, they're 4 hours away. Well, they'll have to come on Monday. I said, well, that's a problem because it's 4 hours away and our clinics start on Monday. Round and round and round for about an hour. And finally we said, you know what, never mind. We'll work it out later. We've got to get to our hotel and get with the other group. And all the time we're thinking, well, worst case scenario is they keep these and we don't have 200 pairs of bifocals, but we've got 5,000 other pairs of glasses with us, so it's not too bad. So we So then we go looking for the transportation people that were supposed to be there to take us to the hotel, and guess what? There's nobody there. Our phones don't work because we don't have Wi-Fi, so we can't call the hotel and say, somebody come get us. Thankfully, there was a very nice young man standing outside the airport. He said, and he showed us his credentials. He said, I work for the airport, can I help you? And I said, yes, we need to get to our hotel. He said, well, Comfort Inn has a free shuttle. Let me call them. I said, that would be great. So he calls them, and the woman answers the phone. She speaks English. I say, you know, we have reservations there. Our transportation didn't show up for some reason. Could you send the shuttle? Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am, but you need to make a 24-hour request. Welcome to Mexico. I said, well, that's great, but we're at the airport right now. Finally, she said, okay, we'll send it. So we get to the airport, or get to the hotel from the shuttle, and the first person when we walk into there in the lobby is Ron Myers, who's one of our team members, and he greets me with, did you get your glasses through? We said, no. He goes, neither did the rest of the team. 5,000 pairs of glasses are sitting in customs. That was, number one, it made me feel like, okay, we're not the only ones. But then the other part of me was, you have got to be kidding. It was, and not only that, they also seized all of the medications that we brought in with us. Now, the interesting thing about it is, they had no interest in all of the doctor's equipment, which is worth more. One piece of that equipment is worth more than all the glasses they seized. But they didn't care anything about that. They only wanted the glasses. The conclusion we came to was that we were definitely targeted. They knew we were coming. They knew our names. They knew what flights we were on. They knew who had the glasses. And we were set aside. In fact, one of our members of the team flew in by himself on Spirit Airline. He did not have any glasses with him. But before they let anyone disembark off that airplane, customs agent came on and called him by name to come off the plane. So they knew we were coming. They knew what we were going to do. They knew we were there to help their people. And they seized all of it. We never did get the glasses for the clinic, and that's why it became mission not possible. It was definitely devastating to us. It was a lesson in frustration and futility and pull your hair out kind of thing. Darlene, the coordinator of this team, had done it had been 3 years in making to get to Cheddar Mall and Bacalar. And she said she thought something was up when 2 weeks before the mission, they started demanding more and more information. What flights are these people on? What are their names? What bags will they be carrying? What will be in those bags? So we were targeted. After a long discussion with the Rotarians at Cheddar Mall, who were humiliated and very apologetic and just felt so bad for us, it was decided that there's no way you can have an eye care mission with no glasses. Yes, we could do exams, but what good would that do if we had nothing to give the people? And so the doctors decided that they would rebook their tickets and just go home because, you know, they're closing their offices to do this, and if they're not going to be doing the mission, then they should just go home and open up their offices and at least try to recoup something from it. It was very disappointing for all of us. What it really came down to was that as of January, a new administration had come into power in that area, and from what we could find out, he didn't play well with the federal government, and apparently the federal government said, we'll show you who's boss. And so the people of Quintana Roo are the ones who suffered for a power struggle. So there were a couple of surprising things that happened. While I was there, I got a phone call, and since my cell phone is also my business phone for Simply Spectacles, thought I better answer it. And it was a woman who needed an appointment, and we kind of chuckled, and I said, well, I got to tell you, I'm out of the country right now. I'll call you back when I get back in the country. We'll set up an appointment. So a little bit later, I noticed there was another phone call that came through, but it was from Arizona. How many of you have gotten phone calls, and the first thing they say is, don't hang up. This is Google Earth, and we just want to update our, when you hang up on them. So I thought, that's got to be Google again. I'm not even going to bother with it. But then I noticed that this person left a voicemail. I thought, okay, I'll listen to it. And so I listened to the voicemail. It was, hi, Brenda, this is Dan Twelker, president of Bosch International. I'm like, whoa, I better take this call. So I'm not really even sure how he found out about our problems, but he did, and he wanted to talk to me about what we were experiencing and if there was anything that Bosch International could do to help us remedy this situation. So we had a very nice chat and then a couple of emails back and forth during the time that we were there. And his concern was he lives in Arizona right on the border of Mexico, and he's an optometrist, and he takes mission trips into Mexico all the time. And he said, we never have any trouble getting our glasses in, but we're always very concerned that they'll seize our equipment. And I said, well, I got to tell you, they didn't even care about the equipment. It was strictly the glasses. And so anyway, he said, I would keep me appraised of what happens, because we want to alert any of the other Bosch teams that are going into Mexico. They may have trouble with this. And not only that, one of the doctors on the trip is friends, or at least acquaintance, with her U.S. representative, and I think his name is Don Lackey. He was on the phone to her because he had heard what happened to us and was trying to negotiate. Nothing worked. And so the doctors went home early. Tim and I got 2 weeks vacation in paradise. Somebody's got to suffer. But it was a little strange because we both said, you know what? It just doesn't seem right to be vacationing. We're just not, you're not interacting with the people and the way we would. And we just felt really strange about it and felt almost guilty about being in paradise for 2 weeks. There were several blessings that did come out of it, and the whole time I'm trying to think, what does God have for us here? Why did this happen? I still don't have the complete answer to that, but there were blessings that came out of it. Number one, Missy and Kevin, our daughter and son-in-law, were on this trip, and we got to spend 5 days with them in Bacalar doing fun things, and so that was a real blessing. But here's another blessing, and I'll put in a plug for Delta Airlines. They really stepped up when the doctors decided that they needed to change their flights and come home early. There's a $200 per ticket change fee. And when Dr. Pfeiffer called and explained the situation, Delta Airlines said, we are so sorry this happened to you. We will not charge you this fee. That saved Bosch, Ohio, $2,000 in change fees. So that was a huge, huge blessing. American Airlines, which we flew, really stepped up and were very helpful in us getting our luggage and that sort of thing, and ended up not charging us for our luggage coming back. So those were some blessings that we saw from that. Again, I say the real losers in this whole thing, yes, we were so disappointed that we were not able to do what we went to do, but the real losers were those poor people in the outlying villages of Bacalar that did not receive eye care because of some politics. I have to say that when we got home, which was another kerfluffle coming home because of a tornado that hit Charlotte and messed up all of our flights, as we came through immigration, I looked at the immigration agent and I said, God bless America. And she said, yes. And I said, one thing I'm so grateful for this country. And every time I go on one of these trips, when I come back, I am so grateful that I live in the greatest country in the world. But I was especially grateful that I knew that when I came home here, that the laws were the laws. And that if something was supposed to happen this way, it happens this way. If you have the correct credentials, you can count on the fact that that will work. And they're not going to seize your luggage because they want to bribe, and that was another thing. They charged us a storage fee for our luggage that they seized. You know, it just makes you very grateful that you live in a country that you live in. The ironic thing is, and I'll close with this, the ironic thing is that our next Vosh International Conference is going to be held in Mexico City. I'm sure we'll have an earful. But anyway, Tim will fill you in on the rest.
As we've been telling you, it didn't turn out like we expected. You know, we had our minds wrapped around what we'd be doing, serving, and made all of our preparations for that. I mean, when I get ready for these things, I can almost see the faces of the people that we're going to be helping, and it is so rewarding. It was a learning experience, and during the trip, the time we were in Mexico, I had to take my own medicine. Literally, for one thing, I'm pretty convinced I had a kidney stone about a week into it. After 4 of them, I know the feeling and the pain. And I have learned that I bring a medicine with me that the last time I had a kidney stone, they prescribed it to me in the emergency room, and it covered the pain and relaxed the tract and allowed the stone to pass. So finally, when I couldn't take it anymore, I took one of those pills, and I ended up taking 2 during the prescribed time, and it largely went away. I know a year ago when I had the blood clots in my lungs, they did a CT scan, and one thing they found was a non-obstructive kidney stone in each kidney, just waiting. And I suspect that one of them is not there anymore. So it could have been worse. But that's not the kind of medicine I really had to take. I had to tell myself the stuff I've been telling others. And one of those things is you have to be flexible, you have to adjust and adapt to changes. I'll tell you, for the first 3 days after we got there, we were shell-shocked. We met with the Rotary people, we said, is there anything we can do? Some of the folks called their federal representatives back at home. One said, you know, a friend of mine is our representative in the Congress. I'm going to call, see if there's anything they can do. Another one said, a friend of mine knows our representative. I'm going to call, ask her to get in touch. So we started working through that. We thought, is there anything else we can do? Well, apparently, from what the Rotary folks told us, and they were humiliated by this, and everybody in Mexico that we said, you know, we're here for a mission, but we couldn't do it, they said, oh, we're so sorry. Every one of the Mexican people was just so wonderful. I got to say, even the people in customs were wonderful. Friendly and helpful, but, well. Anyways, we found out that the mayor of Bacalar had tried to intervene. We found that the governor of the state of Quintana Roo and his wife had tried to intervene. But as Brenda mentioned, the president of Mexico doesn't like the governor of Quintana Roo, and this could have been what it was. Honestly, we don't know what was wrong. We know that all the proper papers were filed. We know that more papers were filed than usual, and we've never had this problem before. You know, obviously, you can't just take merchandise into a country without paying duty, unless you're bringing in for humanitarian purposes. And you have to give proof of that. We gave all the proof of that. Nobody could tell us why they held our stuff and why they didn't hold the equipment. In fact, Brenda mentioned she had to take the salt pan out. That thing weighs, I don't know, 10 pounds. It was packed in one of the bags, plus the other stuff, and suddenly, not only do we have our own luggage we got to haul around, but we've got to haul that salt pan around. And they drag us all over creation to get to the customs warehouse, only to tell us, oh, we can't do anything. Anyway, so we're shell-shocked. Is there anything we can do? We don't know. Finally, you know, they tell us, the Rotary people say we had to cancel the clinics. We had to go to the people in these little villages and tell them they can't be there. The mayor of Bacalar said, well, we want to do something. Do you do eye exams and we'll get the glasses for them? Yeah, we've seen that before. The big promises are made to people and they never get their glasses. After meeting and consulting about it, it was clear that there was nothing that could be done. And that's why most of the doctors were able to reboot. But of course, we had booked budget economy on American Airlines. Did you know there was budget economy? You bring your own lawn chair and they strap it to the wing. Not quite that bad, but you don't get privileges with it. That's okay. It was the lowest fare we could get, and that's what it's about. So, you know, and here Brenda and I had planned the clinics and the travel and everything else, and they always build in a day or two of R&R. They were going to take us to Mayan ruins. They were going to take us on a trip on Lake Bacalar, a 2-hour tour. That sounds like a TV show that used to be on, wasn't it? Gilligan's Island? This was closer to Gilligan's Island than previous mission trips, let me tell you. And that would have, you know, then 10 days later we'd have been back normally, but Brenda and I, you know, our 50th anniversary is coming up, so we said, let's add 5 days. So it'd be a total of 14 days that were in, you know, travel and everything else. And because the most expensive part is getting there, so let's just book a vacation for ourselves all alone in Bacalar for 5 more days. And, you know, so then after working really hard for the rest of the time and exhausting ourselves and having the satisfaction knowing we help people and making these connections with people, with the translators and with the people we've served, then we get to just lay back for 5 days. And now we've got 2 weeks. And I'm thinking, something is not right with this. And I found myself quoting this to myself often from Proverbs 3. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. Oh boy, was that the situation there. We were clueless of what was going on. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make your path straight. Okay, God, what are you doing? What do you want us to do? Because it was sure clear that we weren't in control. And then this other verse also was running through my head. I know, O Lord, that the way of man is not in himself. It is not in man who walks to direct his steps. That's true. I was looking forward to meeting these grizzled old farmers that were probably not much older than me, or younger than me, but looked like they were 90. Wearing a beat-up old hat, with clothes that are kind of dirty, hands that are covered with calluses. They've been out in the fields, and I love shaking their hand and saying, "Mucho gusto. It's good to meet you, sir." I didn't get to see one of them. Or to help an elderly lady who has raised children. His has got a bunch of grandchildren whose eyes are dim from cataracts because she can't see close, and to tenderly help her to her seat and gently take care of her. And after serving her, to say, Dios te bendiga, God bless you, and see her perk up. And usually say the same thing back to me. I look forward to that, and that didn't happen. So for over a week, Brenda was feeling this too, I know, but over a week I was feeling like there was something else I was supposed to be doing. You know? I've had that feeling before. It's kind of like, you know, I'm going to take a day off and go to the lake or something, and I'm sitting there reading, and I keep running through my mind, zing, 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 things I should be doing. I finally say, forget it. And I go home and do it. Well, this time it was a week of that. You know, there are worse problems in the world, but it could have been much worse. We could have been in that little town in Honduras called Jujucalpa, a filthy little town that we had to stay overnight in one time. We could have been there. We could have had a mission in Siberia. Imagine being stuck in Siberia for 2 weeks. Instead, we were in a comfortable, small hotel, kind of up on a hill that overlooked Lake Bacalar. They call it the Lagoon of Seven Colors, and here's a photo I got of it. Oops, along the way. Did I go too far? Put them out of sequence. No? Come on. Find Lake Bacalar. Oh, I better put it in there. Oh, honey, didn't I? No. No, tell me not.
The whole church does not.
Oh, there it is. There's Lake Bacalar. Lake Bacalar is a fascinating geologic formation. There are these deep pools. They're sinkholes. You would call them in Florida. They're 400, 500 feet deep in limestone. They're caves, essentially. They're springs is what they are. And it's like an underground river, and they, collapse right here and reveal themselves. Been there for hundreds and hundreds of years. And they feed this lake. The lake is crystal clear, fresh water. The bottom of the lake is limestone. And so, in the shallower waters, probably 200 feet out, it is up to your waist. And then it gets up to your chest. And then it gets over your head. And it gets deeper as you go out. And so as you look at it, it's this gradation in colors of blue. One of the colors is this bright turquoise that is just eye-popping. It is beautiful. It's beautiful to swim in. It's warm. It's wonderful. We were a 5-minute walk from the hotel down this hill and just over, and there was a pier that went out with a thatched roof over the end of it. And steps that went down into it. You could swim off from it and walk and stuff. It was just beautiful. And we did go on that lake tour. We booked our own, the group did. And they told us some history about the area and how the efforts to preserve the lake. So it was, that was really nice. It was about a half-mile walk to the town square. All these small Central American and Mexican towns are built around the square. The old Spanish design. On one part of the square overlooking Lake Bacalar was an old fort that was built in 1733. And so we paid what was it, 50 pesos maybe? A couple of bucks. No, it was less than that. It was like 35 pesos. 18 cents per peso. Maybe a couple of bucks to go in and tour that and learn some history. And it was built to protect Lake Bacalar, not from the Americans, not from the French, not from the Spanish, but from pirates. Now, Quintana Roo, the Yucatan Peninsula, doesn't have any gold, but what they do have is this tree that yields a red dye that was is precious as gold. And so the pirates would come in and rob them of their dye. So they built this fort with cannons aimed out at the lake to stop the pirates. And so that was interesting. And some other things happened too. Let me go back a couple of steps here. I put this completely out of order. You see, I've gone 2 weeks, I don't know how to do anything anymore. This is Megan, and that is Corey. They're a young couple that we first met in Panama. They were in Pátzcuaro, Mexico 3 years ago. 3 years ago. And we met them. They're from Washington State. And you know, I told Brenda, I always felt that they were just a little bit aloof. I don't know. They're younger than us. They hung around with other people and stuff. They're nice folks, but never got to know them really well. But unknown to us, they were watching us, and they liked us. And so that day that we have the day of arrival, that nightmare day, when we're exhausted after leaving it, our flight was 5:45 in the morning from Cleveland, and here at 6 o'clock at night, it's 85 degrees. We've been forced to drag our luggage all the way out to this warehouse, stand there for 2 hours of frustration, trying to negotiate and figure things out. And Corey and Megan, we ran into them and they said, "We want to go with you." And they said, after what you guys went through in Panama, and almost getting left behind and getting through that, said, "We will follow you guys anywhere." So we spent a lot of time together with them and had some wonderful conversations. Talked about life, talked about marriage, how to make marriage last, you know, the kind of values to build on and stuff. It's not like it was a religious conversation even. It was one of those natural ones that come up, and it's a chance to coach and to influence someone who respects us. And we got to tell funny stories back and forth and just share our life with them. And I think that's part of the reason we were there. And as Brenda mentioned, we got to spend 5 solid days with Missy and Kevin, our daughter and son-in-law. And of course, we're so proud to show them off anyways to the rest of the folks. And spend really quality time doing things with them and talking with them. And Kevin, it was good for him. He had a really great time. Hit it off with everybody and was a real blessing to everybody. And also Kevin came up with this idea of forming Vosh Team 6, where we would put black clothing on and go down through the roof of the warehouse and take our bags back. But thankfully we did not do that. Otherwise I might be in a Mexican jail. And I hear they're not so great. During the whole 2 weeks, there was something else that was in the back of my mind, you know, and as much as I tried to push it to way to the back, it kept coming forward. And that was, coming home, we had to find a way to retrieve our bag. And let me get back to the photo of the bags. These are the red bags Brenda was talking about, the 8 bags that the rest of the team brought that were also confiscated. These had used and some new glasses. Usually they would be readers, as well as a lot of sunglasses, really critical in these missions. Almost nobody who lives in these countries has sunglasses. They're very close to the equator. It causes really bad problems. And here is the fateful bag that we had. Interesting other little twist. This is an old piece of luggage we had. The interior stiffening plastic, you know, it looks good on the outside, but it is all broken up. And so every time you use it, you've got bits of plastic in your clothing. And so here was our plan. We were going to pack these glasses in it. We're going to take it down there and leave it. That's better than throwing it in the trash. Maybe somebody can use it for something. We had to bring it back home. So anyways, it keeps coming to my mind because we already decided we would have to leave Bacalar a day early, take a bus to Cancun, stay overnight someplace, book a place to stay overnight. As soon as we got to Bacalar, we left at one of the first buses in the morning. We got there about 1 o'clock. We checked in. We immediately took the hotel shuttle to the airport so that, because we knew we were going to have to go through some stuff with customs. So 3 hours at the airport on Thursday, being led all over the place, back and forth to this warehouse. Being told, you need to fill this out, you need this paper here, let me make this paper for you, you can sign it, you need copies of this. We prepared everything we could have, what the previous group had told us, but when I get there, they don't know what they're doing. One person sends me to this customs agent, he doesn't know what's going on. He sends me to another, he doesn't know what's going on. And come to find out, they have different ideas of the procedures. I don't know if it's that they don't have any set procedures, or somebody cooked this little scheme up and nobody knew how to get out of it. So 3 hours on Thursday, and essentially I accomplished nothing. And so the agent that I finally was working with, she spoke a little bit of English, and she said, I'll help you with this. You must come back tomorrow, at least 5 hours before your flight. So we went back to the hotel. Thankfully, we got back there before the sun was down. We went for a swim. Oh, it was glorious. Just let the stress drain off because, it's building. I like to think of myself as being calm and cool, and then reality hits and I realize I'm not always that way. I didn't hurt anybody. So I get there 5 hours early. Well, actually more than 5 hours early. We got there an extra hour early because we had to go through American Airlines to check in our one bag, and we had 2 carry-ons, and hopefully get a bag ticket for the other bag that was going to be released. Well, they couldn't give us a bag ticket unless we had the bag, and customs had the bag. So we wait in line. I'm looking at the clock. I have an appointment with this lady at a certain time, and she said, be prompt. I've got to be prompt. And so 5 minutes before my appointment with her, and so I ran to the customs warehouse, the quarter mile. I haven't run for a long time. I ran. I get there, I walk the rest of the way to get my breath calmed down. I don't want to go walking up to their security checkpoint. I gotta see. So I walked up, I was collected. They point me to her, I go up to her room, her office, and she's kind of huffy. I'd never, hurry up and get there, and then, well, just sit out here and wait. So 20 minutes later, she comes out. I ran for nothing. And so, well, you have to do this, and you have to do this, and you have to do this. You don't have much time. We have to get this bag to American Airlines by 11:30. You've only got an hour. I said, what? I guess it was an hour and a half. That's it. We have to get all this done. I said, well, just tell me what to do. Well, this and this and this, hang on, I'll do this for you. And she has to make this letter, another letter. Come to find out, the thing I signed was a receipt. And so I have to have the receipt. We made copies of the receipt. I had to bring colored copies of my passport. I had done that already at the hotel back in Bacalar. So she has to fill out other people. So she has got a constant stream. She's walking to the copier, making copies, filling out forms, making copies, meeting with people, making copies. I'm sitting there waiting. Finally, I sit back and relax, twiddling my fingers for an hour. All the while, the clock is ticking. And she comes out every now and then and says, "Oh, you're running out of time." I'm running out of time. Anyways, I find myself, finally, I think I made 2 or 3 trips back and forth. I had to go to the airline. She said, "You have to get a baggage tag. Take this piece of paper, these papers, there were like 7 papers stapled together. Take these, show it to the agent, he'll give you a ticket." I go to the agent, he calls people, he talks to Customs. Customs tells him, no, you have to take those papers back to the warehouse. I said, "I've just been there, they told me to come to you. They're telling me you have to go back to the warehouse. We can't give you the bag without the ticket, or we can't give you the ticket without the bag." So I ran back to the warehouse. I'm running out of time now. It's getting close to an hour before flight time, before the boarding time. So finally, she takes me now out to every time I've gone into the warehouse, because the day before I had to go to the warehouse, they had to give me a security badge. They had to leave me, I had to leave my backpack behind with all my documents in it, in their office. They had to lead me through all these crates and stuff and get to a caged-in area to see the bag, unzip it, open everything up, make sure it's all the right stuff. So now she says, "Come with me. Don't I need a badge?" No. So we walk right into the warehouse, the boarding area, or the cargo dock. Airplanes are taking off. I can hardly hear. She's talking to an American Airlines agent. She says, "He tells me that he's with American Cargo. He can't do anything for American baggage." Because all they need is someone to walk over my bag to American Airlines. That's all that's needed. He can't do it. He's with Cargo. And I'm standing there going like this on my watch. The stress building up in me. All the time I'm telling myself, I told Brenda on her way that morning, I said, "I'm promising myself I will be polite and grateful. I will be polite and grateful." I'm pretty much polite and grateful. I am going to be polite and grateful. I'm not going to get upset. I'm not going to say anything. Oh, I thought of all kinds of things I was going to tell them. I just didn't know the Spanish words, and it's probably a good thing. I'd have a lot of repenting to do, but it would have been worth it. Polite and grateful. And so it's 20 minutes before boarding time. And I'm standing out there, and they're making this conversation back and forth. He's calling his office, he's calling back and forth. She's not, and finally, they say, "We'll take care of it." What does that mean? And so I make my final run back to the terminal. By this time, I've learned I'm not standing in that line. There's a priority boarding line, and nobody's in it. I figured, I have got priority. So I walked down that like I owned the airline, and God is with me because the guy standing there is the first guy who helped me, who was very helpful. He makes some calls. He gives me a claim check. Comes to find out it wasn't the right one. But he gives me a claim check. And so at least for that moment, I am relieved. I went running back to Brenda because in the meantime, bless her heart, she's sitting at a restaurant and it's about 50 degrees in the airport. She's sitting watching me go back and forth like a madman. I stop every now and then and kiss her and say, "Oh, I gotta go back." So I got it. We grab our luggage, we go as fast as we can, we get to the terminal and we're waiting, and my name is called. I'm thinking, I'm not sure what this is about. So I go up, and the lady there hands me a claim check. and it's the right one, and so this tells me they have our bag. I even watch out the window, see if maybe I can see them, loading the bag, but when we get to Charlotte, it's there. There was another scripture I was reciting to myself very often. Philippians chapter 4. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will keep your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. That I can testify that's true. All the stress, all the anxiety that I went through accomplished nothing. It was a battle of self-control. Telling myself, just let it go, don't feel this way. This does not move things forward. Some things you don't have control of. We got the bag. We got home. Just a little side note on this. That bag that I showed you back here, that black bag, has 200 pairs of bifocals, an assortment of bifocals. Brenda got in contact with this. Essentially, it's a mission that makes glasses for groups like us. Charged $6 a pair for these bifocals. It costs the organization $1,200 for 200 pairs of bifocals. Do you realize how cheap that is? Brenda did just a quick calculation and figured, well, if they were worth $50 each, and they're worth way more than that. You go try to buy a pair of bifocals for 50 bucks. That was $10,000 worth of glasses. I think it was probably someplace between $10,000 and $20,000 worth of value. And so, through that thing, I'm thinking, I'm not going to leave these behind. Whatever it takes, I'm going to get them. Short of hurting somebody. And if I have to do that, I'll pray about it, seriously consider it. I even was fantasizing as I'm standing out there while these guys are talking, I could just sneak up behind this guy. I could go up there and grab my bag, go running across the tarmac to the airplane, and give it to him. I didn't do that. Or I'd be in a Mexican jail. Anyways, I know this is not the last time I'm going to face frustrating and stress and things out of my control. How about you? Ever face those situations? You know what? When we're just about to break, when the frustration and the anxiety is getting over the limit, it's not helping anything. It's not. So you can tell yourself that. But what you can say is, I don't know what to do about this, but God knows. He is the sovereign Lord of this universe. He has a bigger plan than I can even see. He can do something with this. And I think that the results of this and the blessings of this are still to be seen. So how was the mission trip? Well, it was unlike one that we've ever experienced before. And it was disappointing in some very big ways. And it was revealing. And it was a big lesson. And pray about Mexico, because right now, across many mission organizations, there's a moratorium on taking humanitarian supplies into Mexico. The word's been spreading on this. We don't want it to stay that way. But if we can't get the stuff in, there's no sense trying to. And the other thing that is, 20 years ago, Brenda and I went on a little vacation to Cancun for 3 days. 5 years after that, there was a hurricane that came through and pretty well scrubbed the coastline. Cancun now looks more like New York City. It is traffic and traffic jams. It is high rises. It is on the ocean front all the way back for about a half mile, maybe a mile. That's Cancun today. This tells me the state of Quintana Roo has enough money to take care of its people. There should not be one person who needs eye care that doesn't have it in that state. So pray that whatever's going on in the politics in Mexico, that's going to get squared away. Those people deserve to have a stable life. And we take things for granted. Things aren't perfect in this country, but you just compare it to these other countries and we are so far ahead. It's not a reason for arrogance, but for healthy pride and for gratitude, and to say, what makes it that way? Our country was founded on biblical values, and that is what at the very core. And so we need to help, we need to be a part of what keeps it at the core. Would you pray with me? And we're going to sing a song and get moving. Lord God of heaven, bless the people that we were not able to serve. Touch the hearts of those who are in control, that they would do what we were going to do. Lord, I pray that there are optometrists and charitable organizations in Mexico that will rally when they hear about this, and that they will fill the gap, and that you will give us direction in what you want us to do in helping people. Lord, bless this church. Thank you for the many ways that you have made it a base for helping others around the world. Thank you, God, for the knowledge that you are in control and that we are in your hands. We love you for that. In Jesus' name, amen.
Lord, make us instruments of your peace. Where there is hatred, let your love increase. Lord, make us instruments of your peace. Walls of pride and prejudice shall cease when we are your instruments of peace. Where there is hatred, we will sow his love. Where there is injury, we will never judge. Where there is sighing, we will speak his peace. To the people crying for release, we will be his instruments of peace. Lord, make us instruments of your peace. Where there is hatred, let your love increase. Lord, make us instruments of your peace. Walls of pride and prejudice shall cease when we are your instruments of peace. Where there is blindness, we will pray for sight. Where there is darkness, we will shine his light. Where there is sadness, we will bear their grief. To the millions crying for release, we will be his instruments of peace. Lord, make us instruments of your peace. Where there is hatred, let your love increase. Lord, make us instruments of your peace. Walls of pride and prejudice shall cease when we are your instruments of peace. Open my eyes that I may see glimpses of truth thou hast for me. Place in my hands the wonderful key that shall unclasp and set me free. Silently now I wait for thee. instruments of your peace. What pride and prejudice shall cease when we are your instruments of peace.